Our next question is a 90-second question. It's going to go to Ms. Hapai first. It's about climate change. There is global scientific consensus that climate change is happening now. It creates environmental, social, and economic consequences for everyone. And of course, Hawaii is particularly vulnerable to rising sea levels and other consequences of global warming. If elected, how do you plan to have Hawaii County better be prepared for climate change? Ms. Hapai, you have 90 seconds. Was my question not clear?
No, your question is clear. I'm just kind of thinking about it. I used to teach ecology, and one of my things I told my students was, you better buy an Upper Kaumana because in time you'll have beachfront property. And of course that was a joke, but today we have to really take a look. And we know we need to be good stewards of our earth, of our Hawaii, of our environment. And I kind of look at global change and climate change as we're kind of like in a terrarium. Everybody can understand that, where we're enclosed. We're enclosed by an ozone layer that allows UV radiation not to pass in and not harm us. We are also affected by carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, methane, that are greenhouse gases that actually hold in heat. They let the light in, but the heat doesn't get out. And so we have that problem of heat being retained. But also there's the other side, and that is the particulates from volcanic eruptions, from dust storms, actually can cause a refrigeration effect. So we need to work real closely with the scientists because it's all a balance. And so I guess that would be my recommendation. Keep close touch with our scientific community, do our parts as good stewards, and be able to adjust because it's important.
Mr. Lau, if you were elected, what do you plan to have Hawaii County do to better prepare our island for climate change? 90 seconds.
I see climate change in three ways. The first one, because of the global warming and everything, is natural disasters with El Nino. And we saw that happen last year where we dodged many bullets, but we also got hit. As a result of what we saw with Ishel, and where communities was just locked out from the rest of the world, is really to work with community in developing, helping the community develop their disaster preparedness plan as a community. The second area that I will focus on is global warming, climate change is a planning issue. And so now we're going to have to take a look at our certified shoreline. What was a beach is now no longer a beach. Where you could have built, you no longer can build because everything's been pushed. The other side is public works. It's about roads. The example that maybe I like to use is Ali'i Drive. Maybe you won't see it in my lifetime, but maybe 7 generations from now, there will not be an Ali'i Drive. So the importance then of maybe looking at what we can do to build the Ali'i Parkway, because that might now become the road of the future because of the imbalance that is going on.
Thank you very much. Mr. Weiner.
This is an absolutely great question and so vital to us right here. You don't have to look very far to see severe climate change. You can look at our ohia forests, and they're dying. But it's not just our ohia forests. Forests around the world are dying. And the reason they're dying is because the microorganisms, these tiny little creatures that keep the forest healthy and functioning, are dying right now. So here in Hawaii, we have a unique opportunity to change the entire world. We have a way through Korean natural farming to take microorganisms and to propagate them into trillions of good guys and to put them out into our forests. What do those little microorganisms do? They eat the toxins. They sequester carbon out of the air. They feed the forest so they come back to life. And they grow healthy food, and it helps your immune system. So climate change might seem like this big thing, but in actuality, it's very, very tiny. It's very small, and each one of us can take individual action to do it. Now, being mayor, I have access to all this spraying equipment to go and spray all this beneficial microorganisms, which are indigenous, cultured right here, into the forest to stop this problem today. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weiner. Mr. Hoffman.
In my administration, I would immediately form a planning group whose sole function is to try to examine where we're going with climate change and the impact that rising sea levels have on our economy. What are the questions that we need to ask ourselves now in 2017 so that we're prepared in 2030 and 2040 to handle these in an economic and efficient way? What are the effects on zoning, for instance, or when does the county stop zoning in areas we know are probably going to be inundated with ocean water because of this? What type of liability does the county have on existing homes in these areas? Or when does the county liability stop, when it becomes evident that this is really a significant feature which will affect public health and safety? And you know what, folks? The one thing about this particular problem is that we can start right now with a bunch of federal funds that are available. No one else, or very few communities, are looking at this. And those federal funds are available. We don't have to spend 1 cent of your dollars if we plan properly and we start that effort now. That's what I would do in my administration. And if you look at my website, you'll see that I've already developed that type of a argument and concept. And I think it's necessary to begin today, not even next month.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Waugh.
Give everybody free sunscreen. It's getting hot. We need to start taking advantage of the solar energy that's provided to us. We need to also look at wind, right? We have some of the highest winds on the planet here. We also have the ocean. We need to have ocean-driven energy. We have geothermal. We have that. We got a lot of different resources happening for us. We just need to start taking the lead. Why can't Hawaii County lead the world in self-sustainability in regards to energy? I don't know. It's probably because the shareholders of Helco don't want that. Anyway, we really need to start focusing on these things, though, because it's available to us. It's not getting cooler. It's getting hotter. Inundation zones, yeah, zoning needs to be pushed back. We need to stop. We need to really focus on these things because it's not going to get better. It really isn't. So we need to also look at how we can take care of all of our garbage and all of these things, because there's other ways than throwing it in the ground. There's other ways than throwing wastewater into the ground. We just got to start thinking outside of the box. We have the best and brightest people. We just need to utilize them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watt. Ms. McCandless.
What we need to understand is climate change, we're not going to stop it. All we can do is slow it down. Hawaii has already, under Governor Ige, has already made a plan to be 100% renewable energy. First, we need to start addressing that. Currently, we are 40% renewable for our county. We need to continue to improve that. This is how we're going to address some of the heating issues, our erosion of our coastlines. Up where I live up in Waimea, our ranching community, it's decreasing because there's a lack of water. We can't sustain the cattle head anymore. The soil can't retain the water because this is all effects of global warming. We need to be headed in the direction of being more reusable, of being conscious of the decisions that we're making on a daily basis, not just as a community, but as individuals. Making sure that we're actually being so efficient in our recycling process. For instance, our county buildings, we have recycling, helping our communities around us, not just Kealakekee High School, but even in the local communities, figuring out ways where we can have mass recycling, not just at the landfill, because once it gets to that point, it becomes a matter of convenience, and do we really do it? Is that really something that our communities are gonna buy into? These are all things that we need to be thinking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCandless. Mr. Kim, if you are elected mayor again, what do you plan to have Hawaii County do to better prepare our island for climate change? Take 90 seconds, please.
Let me digress just a second here. During a very short break, I leaned over to Mr. Hoffman because he and I were in office at the same time for a couple of years. And my question to him was, what can I do to stop this nonsense information out there in regards to who built what road, how many employees we hired, who they were, et cetera, et cetera. His response to me is that you got to do a better job of telling people, and he's right, because during The term as mayor, I ordered people that your job is to do the job and don't worry about credit. People know who did the job, and I'm finding out I wasn't quite correct. In regards to the question, it's a very simple issue in regards to me. We have to let the world recognize that this hazard consequent risk exists. That has been a problem for decades. I remember meeting with these Alaskan mayors and saying the frustration of the federal government not recognizing that that area was sinking until they showed pictures of time element. Our job here as county government leaders would be to work with people to truly understand what the hazards are. Consequently, you'll know what the risks are, and that to communicate with everyone all the mitigation things we can and must do to address that outside of the prevention element of global warming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim. Mr. Bryant.
Actually, former Mayor Kim hit the nail right on the head there. It's mitigation once you know what the real problems are. And until you know what the real problems are, you cannot be building roads or changing zones and this and that. Mitigation of what is possible is doable, but you have to know what's possible first by checking with the scientists and the like. The county is at risk in some ways, but the county does not own all the land. People own the land. They've bought it for their lifetime or whatever, and their investment is not guaranteed by the county. So I have to admit that although it's going to be a sad day at some time for some people, it's just part of the situation. Having had a house near Fukushima in Japan, I know all about losing property. So it's part of the gamble that you make when you live here. That's one of the reasons I bought in Hamakua and I didn't buy over in Puna. I wasn't too keen on having my house inundated by a lava flow. So, you know, you take your chances and you do what you do. But the county needs to do it on a basis of expert advice. Outside of expert advice, they shouldn't do anything.
Thank you.